Welcome to the Health Angle Podcast with Dr. Mike Headlee and Dr. Gordon Fimreite, where we'll be exploring different angles of health to achieve the best version of yourself. Now here's your hosts, Dr. Mike and Dr. Gordon.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Headlee, and with me is Dr. Gordon Fimreite. Welcome, Dr. Gordy.
Hey, Mike, and hi, everybody. Welcome to the Health Angle Podcast. And today's title is Secrets of the World's Longest Living People, the Blue Zones Explained. Mike, I remember that once you brought up blue zones, and I didn't know what you were talking about. Now, I've heard of some of the 5 cities that are on this blue list, but I didn't really know what it was entirely. So I'm sure there's viewers going, what are you talking about? What are these 5 cities? Well, these 5 cities, and we'll get into these in detail, but this is where people are living the healthiest lives, having the healthiest lifestyle, and you have more people living into their hundreds than any other cities in the world. So we're going to really dive into this. So welcome to the Health Angle Podcast.
It's a really fun topic because more and more people know about this because it's on Netflix. There's series. The book, The Blue Zones, this is like a 2008 book, so it's not brand new. I would like to talk about maybe how we apply it to our lives, to our practice members' lives, and then just how the United States could jump in and be one of these blue zone countries. That would be my ultimate dream.
Well, that'd be great. And the reality is we can't all move to Okinawa, Japan, but what we can do is we can bring their lifestyle to us. And it's going to be fun diving into this because there's so many parallels to their lifestyles and how they approach life and how they eat. And when I was doing a little bit of the research of this, I kept flashing back to my grandmother's story. She lived to be 105, very healthy. And I'll talk maybe just a little bit about some of the parallels with her lifestyle.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that she's living proof that lifestyle matters. One of the first things I recommend for most people is when you go to bluezones.com, there's 5 tabs on the top. There's one called Learn and Discover. And on the very bottom, it says Live Better Longer. And if you click on that, you can scroll down to the bottom and it has a really neat test that it says it's only 3 minutes, but it's in 33 questions, but it takes a little while. But it tells you approximately how long they expect you to live based on this survey, and then how many quality years. Just say you're supposed to live till you're 90, but only 80 quality. Well, how do I get 89.9 quality years out of a 90? And they give you a list of things that you can incorporate into your lifestyle that you may not have known about or you just maybe need to start doing. So it's my first place to start is take the bluezones.com Vitality Compass and see where you rate. You can't improve what you don't measure. So if you're only supposed to live till you're 70, well, don't get stressed. Take some action. And every month, every quarter, every year, retake the test and see how your longevity expectation can improve.
That's great. Good recommendation, Mike. And what are these 5 cities throughout the world, and how was this name actually coined?
The 5 cities, there's one in the United States, the Seventh-day Adventists in Loma Linda, California, Okinawa, Japan. Females over 70 are the longest lived population in the world. Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica, the Ikaria, Greece, and then the Barbagia region of Sardinia are the 5 blue zones that met their criteria, that people just lived on average, 70 plus years, often into 100 years old, without the major 4 that takes down most Americans: the heart disease, the diabetes, the dementia / Alzheimer's, and cancer. If you can avoid those 4 and incorporate these lifestyle things, you're good to go.
Yeah. The one that stood out to me was Okinawa, because that's been on the radar for a long time in Japan. And what really sticks out to me anyway is the emphasis on social support systems that they have there. They have a plant-based diet, which is, really rich in antioxidants and combined with low stress living. And they keep meaningful roles for people, even as you mature and get older. I know with technology, people probably feel we don't need our elderlies as much as we used to. We used to rely on the elderly wisdom in life. And of course, that has changed with technologies. And then there, of course, the sense of purpose is just huge. And the other thing that stood out to me is Japan's healthcare system. We always talk about in America, sick care. As long as you're sick, you get care. You wait till you have problems and chronic diseases, and then you go to your doctor. Well, Japan is a little bit different. They place a very strong emphasis on prevention and maintaining health care, health basically, through regular checkups, which we do have here, through health screenings, which again we have here. But what we're missing is this third component is promoting lifestyle changes. So in a sense, the doctor there are really aimed at more proactiveness in their lifestyles and keeping their patients healthy. In fact, financial incentives with our doctors is sickness, you get more money through insurance and more medical care, and the doctors make more, and that's kind of how the system works. And of course, you get passionate doctors, of course, who love their careers and want to help people. But in Japan, their financial incentive, they really are focused on prevention and getting people healthy, which is kind of different than what we have here.
It is, it is. And I studied that as well, Dr. Gordy. And number one, in Japan, they don't have the word retirement. So I guess if you're a teacher, you teach till you die. But
Hmm.
it means that when you do want to end a career or stop a certain career, well, then you start something else. You don't just quit and do nothing. So you're always mind and body and spirit and everything is always active. And yeah, in Japan too, Gordy, you get like if you get diagnosed with cancer, you get three choices that you can say, hey, I want to do only natural things, the Gerson diet and juicing and all these herbs and tinctures and teas. You can do only medicine, the drugs, radiation, surgery, chemo, or you can do a blend. But you sit down with your provider and say, what do I have? What's this lump on here? Should I just cut it off and I'm done? Or should I, clean up my diet and quit smoking and do whatever? You decide, and then they honor that. And their health services cover that. And so you can do all natural, all medicine, or a blend, but truly what's right for the individual. I really
And
like that concept.
it almost coincides with the ideal because it's so community rich there. And the doctors are community people too, maybe not directly with that patient in their own community, but it has a community rich culture. And therefore, people are just talking to people, finding out what their goals, what they want out of their health systems, etc., which is
Yeah, I like
great.
that. I like that. We're so fragmented today, it seems, post COVID, where we just like we don't even have, we wave at our neighbors and sometimes they wave back, sometimes they don't. And, it's like, oh, okay, don't talk to me. Is that a stranger? Who's knocking at the door? Is that UPS or is that, oh my God. Oh, it's just the UPS. Is that a fake UPS truck or is that a real one? Why can't we trust anyone anymore? And
Yeah.
know our neighbors. So, and talk about the Blue Zones Power Nine, the nine things that were in common with these five cities or countries that made them the world's healthiest and longest lived people. They said all of the blue zones have these nine things in common. And so I ask people, your first step is to do the vitality compass and just see where you stand. How long are you supposed to live? What's your quality years? Number two is create a pro longevity environment in your where do you live? Where do you work? Where you create this environment like these people live in, and then pick the low hanging fruit. We're going to go through quite a few things, a lot of simple stuff. You know, oh, I could do that. I could do that. Pick the lowest hanging fruit, easy stuff to implement, and do that for a month or two. And say, oh, that one's tougher. Let's bring that one into the fold. And so the first one, Dr. Gordy, move naturally. You talk about exercise all the time. Your famous saying is consistency is more important than intensity.
Intensity.
And I was talking to a colleague last week, and And he's kind of like me. We used to teach at Life University, and we're old school. And these blue zone countries and people, they don't wear Fitbits. Not that there's anything wrong with that. They don't know what VO2 max is. They don't know what their heart rate variability is. They don't know how many minutes of deep sleeps and REM sleep that they had last night, right? They don't know all of these things. They aren't on a specific diet, even though they are, but they don't weigh every ounce of protein and measure every carbohydrate and how many grams of sugar. They just live, but they live a long quality life. So move naturally is the number one thing.
I want to make
Power
one
nine.
point to that motion. It makes a lot of sense because everything in our body is based off of motion. Our heart is always beating. Our circulation is always pumping blood. We're always rejuvenating and rebuilding cells. So everything is meant on motion. If we're stagnant and not motioning, that's a contradiction to us as human beings. We were meant to be moving because everything in our system is in a constant flux of movement. So good point. I love the first one.
Yeah, they grow gardens and they aren't looking at the most mechanical conveniences. They're raking and hoeing and they don't have always have tillers and automatic sprinklers and just all the automation. They get and dig in the dirt. Some other things under Move Naturally, Dr. Gordy, they inconvenience yourself. If you're going to a big parking lot, you don't have to drive around for 10 minutes to get the closest spot. You can park far away and then move, and or make extra trips up and down the stairs if you're doing laundry and doing other things. Have fun, keep moving, walk, plant a garden, and enroll in a yoga class. Just some simple examples that you can do just to move naturally is the first of the Power Nine. Number two is purpose. This comes back to your Japan. The Okinawans call it Ikagai, translate into why I wake up in the morning. So they have a purpose. So knowing your sense of purpose is worth up to 7 years of extra life expectancy. They don't just sleep till noon and say, what am I going to do? I'm bored. What's on TV? They have a purpose. They have a reason for getting up out of bed. What's your comment on that, Gordy?
No, I think that's a powerful. I think, my father was always active in his greenhouse business as a hobby, and he says this is my lifeline. This is what keeps me going. And with the greenhouse, they sold plants, so he had social interaction, but it got him up in the morning. It's a purpose, there's something to do. My grandmother even touched on this too when she lived to be 105, and she had said that one of her purposes was going to church and being faithful and being a Christian. It just got her up, and that was her purpose. And yeah, a lot to be said about purpose and community ties and close-knit communities.
I agree. If you don't have the family that is just loving and nurturing, you create a new group or a new tribe, and you can still love your family, but you can still go outside your family and join a band or a choir or talk to someone today who joined a choir. I didn't know they sang, and that's just super exciting and just a different family, a different tribe, different support network. And number three is downshift. We've talked about stress a lot, Dr. Gordy, and just how devastating that can be on the fight or flight system and eating up all of our antioxidants and raising blood pressure and blood sugar and affecting our sleep. And so downshift, and I think that's just part of living in nature. And your dad, I mean, if he got stressed, go work in the greenhouse, go work outside, blow some stuff off, get some fresh air, go for a walk and cool off a little bit. I've never saw him stressed. I knew him, but I thought fairly well. People sometimes, I never saw you stressed. Well, then come live with me for a while. I'll show you that I get stressed, but I know how to downshift as well, like the blue zones.
Yeah, and I think part of their lifestyles too was living. Some of them are in rural communities, so they're in nature. They're one in with nature, and I think there's a lot to be said about being in nature and the peace and serenity you get from nature.
Absolutely. Number four, Dr. Gordy, is the 80% rule. You painlessly cut calories by 20%. So stop eating when their stomach is 80% full,
That's
because then you can
powerful.
just take a break and evaluate, am I truly full? Am I satisfied? Well, yeah, then why am I eating six more pieces of pizza then? And if you really aren't, you go, gosh, I'm hungrier than I thought. Well, then have some more healthy quality food. But it just makes sense instead of getting this big mound of food and eating it mindlessly in front of the TV and not even being conscious of that. And so as soon as you no longer feel hungry or you feel 80% full, and then just eating mindfully, I believe, chewing slowly. And I think it comes back to the social thing that you mentioned earlier. If you're having a meal with friends and family and the family style here, pass the dish and take some and pass some. It's social. It's not a rush eating, fast food, staring with your knee, talking on the phone, yelling at kids in the back seat. It's a social, nutritious, fueling, fun event, really.
Yeah, and I know in Okinawa, this is actually an Okinawan principle, and it's called Hara Hachi Bu, which means eat until you're 80% full, and this will promote moderation and prevent overeating. And I think some of the studies coming out that people that are under eating are having healthier benefits later on in life than those that tend to overeat. And obviously, I think overeaters are the ones that have a high body mass index and all the other symptoms that come with that, whether it's high blood pressure, borderline diabetic, et cetera, or cardiovascular problems as they mature in life.
And number five is the plant slant. They aren't all vegans. They all aren't all vegetarians. And one of the things I've been preaching for a long, long time is I said we should study vegetarians and vegans. Why? Because that's sometimes the hardest to make, really interesting and special and gourmet. Easy to fry some eggs. You throw a hamburger or a lamb chop on the grill, or protein's easy. It doesn't mean it's cheap. Doesn't mean it's not hard to find. But vegetables, eat them raw, eat them in a smoothie, eat them in stir fry and roast it, and put different herbs and oils and just dress them up with natural things to make them interesting. And what the Blue Zones people do, they'll have beef stew with a chunk of beef, not like massive amounts for flavorings and to savor it. And they just don't overdo protein. You can't underdo protein for sure, but they just don't overdo it. They don't have three steaks a day. And so
Mhm.
plant slant, really, really important. And they grow a lot of their food, so they know what went into it and the loving and care and sweat equity and no chemicals on it. So they eat 4 to 6 vegetables a day, limit meat, showcase fruits and vegetables, have them as snacks and desserts, and eat nuts every day. They have a lot of beans, and then they just stock up and can and freeze things to have stuff always available.
Mhm. That's one of the thing that I noticed, Mike, out of the five cities here are a consistent trend would be that they're all eating vegetable-based foods, Mediterranean type diets, and limiting the type of dairy that they take and limiting the meats so they're not going overboard. So great information. Keep going.
Yeah, number six is wine at 5, so they call it happy hour. Drink red wine in moderation, of course. Buy a case of high quality. They're about quality, not quantity. We were both in Spain at the same time before. Yeah, and you see business people having a glass of wine in the middle of the day, but they aren't drinking a whole bottle and taking the afternoon off and going back to the office buzzed. There's no chemicals and nitrates in it, and it's more of a digestive aid and social. Over a
Mhm.
2 hour lunch, you're having one glass of wine. The average person, if you're used to that, you don't even get a buzz, and you can drive or walk back to the office. So I'm not a drinker currently right now, Dr. Gordy. I haven't drank seriously in a long time for a lot of reasons. Not against it. I think if I started drinking, I would probably drink red wine.
Yeah.
But I don't personally think you need to do it to be a blue zone centenarian. But I also think in moderation it can be social and fun that we keep coming back to group. Go out
Yeah.
with a group of people or go for a bike ride and a walk, and after yoga class have a glass of wine and a nice healthy lunch or something. That I think that's fair game too. But Americans have it wrong. Let's save up till Friday night and drink 20 Bud Lights and not even taste it. I just think
I
That's the
remember when I
opposite.
was living in Spain, I had the opportunity before I went to chiropractic school. I actually was in Spain for, and that's just Spain, but all over Europe for about 3 years. And the biggest thing that I observed was that the young population, college age kids, which I was at the time, just out of college, they would go to a bar and they would just peacefully sit around and chit chat over a wine. And some of them had coffee. Not everybody was drinking, but the one thing they weren't doing was slamming down beers, trying to get, the purpose of being drunk. And it was just kind of a social setting and drinking a wine and enjoying each other's company. And I remember asking somebody, I go, this is so different than what I've seen and what I'm used to. And they said, well, I think really it comes down to like these kids were raised in Europe where they had unlimited wine throughout their lives whenever they wanted it. Therefore, there wasn't this like, oh, once I turn 18 at that time or 21 today, oh, good, and now I can drink. It was kind of like perhaps out of their system or never was in their system because they had an unlimited supply of alcohol. And therefore, they're looking at alcohol more or less as a social outlet, just like coffee would be. So a different, totally different thought and view on alcohol there for sure.
Yeah, so I think you can do almost anything the right way and almost anything the wrong way. And so there's no health expert today is going to say unlimited alcohol is okay. There's just
Yeah, and
not.
then you look at the red wine too. You get resveratrol, which is a great antioxidant. So you get some really good benefits from like the red wine that they're drinking too, and they're probably not filled with all kinds of preservatives either, more natural.
If someone hasn't asked me this in quite a long time, but if someone says, Dr. Headley, should I take some Aleve or Advil or Ibuprofen? Like I don't own any. I can't legally tell you what to take. I can't tell you not to take it. If you aren't feeling great, have a glass of organic wine or something, I mean, that's way probably easier on your system and you can sip it and relax than taking a handful of Tylenol or whatever.
No doubt.
Number 7, you already mentioned this, belong. All but 5 of the 263 centenarians they interviewed belonged to some faith-based community. All but 5 of the 263 centenarians, faith-based community members. Denomination doesn't seem to matter. Research shows that attending faith-based services 4 times per month will add 4 to 14 years of life expectancy. And you did mention your grandma went faithfully for years and years and years to church and stuff.
Hmm.
So sometimes all it is, again, it comes back to social. A lot of people have coffee and donuts afterwards, or you don't have to have the coffee and donuts, but meals, and they have special programs and special speakers, and they have, Bible studies and different trips and mission trips and whatever. I think it's a great way to interact and be social and then worship at the same time.
Yeah, like even in Japan, they would have areas of the community would get together, and it was a support system just emotionally and stress wise, mental for their mental health as well. And there would be singing and dancing and even tai chi in the park, the slow movement and working on coordination, good as you mature in life. Even my grandmother, she used to say, I went to church every Sunday, I'd bring a book with me, I would sit in a different pew each week, and she'd give her book away. And the reason she did that is to meet more people and have that interaction. And it was a great social outlet for her as well as a sense of belonging. So, yeah, really good, great information.
We have 2 left. Number 8 on the Power 9 is loved ones first. So make family a priority. Get closer, establish rituals, create a family shrine, put family first. This year for Christmas, we're actually home with my 3 kids and or their fiance or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, but we created some new games and just some really kind of fun things that we want to try to recreate every year, and just like, oh, we got to play our game, or we have to do this, we have to do this, and so that was just really really fun, and just really put stuff on the calendar and say we're all going to do this time. Otherwise, it just gets busy, or like, oh, I have nothing going on this weekend, and we should have planned something, or oh, I was busy. But family matters. Right tribe is number 9. So I contend, Dr. Gordy, you can tell me if you agree or disagree. that our health is the sum of the 5 people's health that we hang around with the most. And you can add or subtract that, go down to 2, go up to 8. And so I tell that to people and they go, oh, let's see, who do I hang around with the most? What's their health like? Like if I hang around with 4 other smokers, I'm either going to start smoking or I'm going to ditch the group. And if I want to gain a bunch of, if you go to CrossFit, you kind of find a group to hang with and, oh, geez, now I'm working out with my new buddy, or whatever, or I go to the dog park and walk with those people, whoever we're hanging around in general, that's what our health is like, because they go, oh, here's a recipe, or here, I brought you a smoothie, try my new, I'm taking these new vitamins. I'm listening to this new podcast called The Health Angle, and these guys are talking about the blue zone. So you have different things in common. And so do you agree with that we're kind of the sum of the 5 people we hang around the most?
Yeah, that's a good point, Mike. I was just thinking about that, of the 5 people that I hang around with the most. I just moved here to Alabama, so I don't have the same support system as I did back in Chicago. But I was just kind of thinking about that. But in essence, yeah, I think most of the people that I hung out with had the same type of lifestyle. They're active. We played beach volleyball. We got out in the sun, got some vitamin D, pretty healthy lifestyle. My wife eats the same as I do. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
And so, I mean, you can start with your family, I mean, I only have 2 people besides myself in my house. So it's not like I have 5 people in my house. But if your spouse is healthy in general, they'll be ragging on you every day to get healthy, or you'll be healthy. And that makes a difference. So those are the 9 things that you can start slow, pick the low-hanging fruit. If you're already going to church and worship every week, 4 times a month, like the centenarians do, maybe join a Bible study, maybe go the extra mile, maybe invite someone else that hasn't been to church in a while and bring them back in. So take baby steps, low-hanging fruit. And it's very doable, though. Don't you think, Gordy?
Yeah, no, absolutely, for sure. But what I want to do, Mike, is I want to just go through one city, and that's Okinawa. For some reason, I resonate with this so much. And I want to just go through some things that maybe people can incorporate into their lifestyle. And we already talked that plant-based diet is a big thing. Well, one of their staple foods is sweet potatoes. So I challenge our audience, try to add some sweet potatoes to your diet. Good carbohydrates and good antioxidants, good fiber as well. And another thing is Goya, which is bitter melon. Try to find that. Incorporate that into your diet. It's great as an anti-inflammatory and great as an antioxidant, and that keeps you young. And then there's healthy soy products like tofu and miso. And I know I take some of those regularly. Low consumption, we talked about that. Karate, they do like different slow-moving types of like martial arts, and one of them is karate, the other one is kabuto. Even the elderly people, they also practice to some degree, not the intensity, but they also practice a degree of karate just to maintain balance, coordination, and strength. And as we mature in life, what do we lose? Balance, coordination, and strength. So we really need to maintain that. And then traditional herbal remedies. I remember having these patients in Chicago come, and this one in particular said, all my friends go to the traditional herbalist. They go to Chinatown just like every month. And the reason why is because she goes, everybody in our office was having some type of digestive problem or skin problem, or maybe didn't have enough energy, or a female problem. And they would go in to have these herbs. And of course, herbs have been around for thousands of years. So I thought, well, there's something to this. I got to go check this out. So I went to the herbalist office. I wasn't a patient there yet, but I wanted to just kind of check it out. And there's just loads of people in there. And one guy came out and I go, what's going on? And he told me his story. He had COPD, and he said he was taking all the traditional meds and he just couldn't function. And so he was looking for something to do, that it wasn't just taking meds. So he went to the herbalist and he started to, take himself off a few of the meds. He got to the point where he was functional, not perfect, but a whole lot more functional. He was so happy. Since then, I would send patients there who might have a female problem or trouble getting over a cold or flu. And then I started going every quarter, and I called it the detox, where I'd get some type of traditional Chinese herbs, and I'd take them for a week just to kind of detox and get myself in balance again. So I'm a big fan of that. And in Japan, they have their own traditional herbal remedies as well. And then I just talked about the traditional singing, praying. They do it in groups, and they do it really a tight-knit group. And I think what they really do is make everybody responsible for everybody else, including their health. So they got a lot of harmony and a lot of longevity as a result of that. And we talked about the Okinawan dance, same concept, getting people together, moving, getting a connection, and also a cultural heritage connection as well. And then they have this living in harmony with nature, forest bathing, they call it, or gardening. A lot to be said. I know we mentioned gardening, but what is forest bathing? Basically, just getting in touch with nature. It really improves stress, getting out in nature and enjoying it. My wife and I were in Tokyo, and we went to a hot springs in the suburbs of Tokyo. Oh, was it an incredible experience. We go to a nice open locker room type area. You could jump into kind of a wood tub, kind of a hot tub. And then you go to the normal area. It's kind of not quite a traditional swimming pool, but they had just different calisthenics and the exercises and the equipment in the pool that you could just get that motion and movement without gravity working on your joints. Incredible experience. And then you could go outside and sit in the hot tub outside. And then after sitting in the jacuzzi, you can walk over to the outdoor sauna. But they also have these immaculate gardens, which are just relaxing in themselves. So you can sit in the gardens, and they have just a whole array of different plants, and it's really quite mesmerizing.
That sounds like an awesome experience. And gosh, I wish we had that close and local. And you'll have to maybe find some hot springs down south now since you're in a new location. So
I couldn't agree
that
more. And we were looking for hot springs in the United States. There's just not enough of them.
yeah.
And there's something very special. We went to hot springs in Beijing and Guangzhou and kind of all over the place. And the hot springs are incredible. I think they might have some in Colorado and New Mexico here, but far and few between. Yeah, it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, very cool. I'm going to run down real quick the United States top 9 commonalities on Loma Linda, California, and their blue zone. So the people in Loma Linda, they find a sanctuary in time, and religion is very, very important. Maintain a healthy body mass index, so their height and weight ratios. They get regular, moderate exercise. Spend time with like-minded friends that we talked about. Snacking on nuts. Give something back. Eat meat in moderation. Eat an early but a light dinner. Put more plants in their diet, drink plenty of water. All things we're capable of doing and improving and getting really, really good at.
Awesome. I think it's incredible. I have a quick summary, Mike, that I would like to share. If we could put this in just a few words, it would be number 1, diet, plant-based, nutrient-rich foods. Number 2, physical activity, natural daily movement. Number 3, social connection, the importance of close-knit communities and people near you. Next one, sense of purpose, having a reason to wake up every single morning. And then you have stress management, regular relaxation, and time to rest. And then the last one is sleep and rest. I mean, that's a great summary.
So as we close out with 1 minute left, I always ask and challenge people to what's your number one takeaway that you can share with a coworker tomorrow at work? What is the number one thing that you learned that you would like to share with these coworkers about the blue zones? Number 2 is what's your action step that you can take today based on what we talked about the blue zones? Are you going to take your assessment on bluezones.com? Or are you going to just take some mini action steps that we talked about and share that with coworkers and friends and family and be accountable and take action?
Awesome information. It was a great week this week. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. Please like our content and hit that notification bell. We'll have another episode next week, so be sure to join us here on the Health Angle podcast for another episode. Until then, we'll see you then.
Thank you for joining us on the Health Angle podcast. Please subscribe to our channel and catch us for our next episode.